believe it? 828 Big Chicken Morning Show with Jazzy McBee on V103 to ATL's #1 for hip-hop, R&B, and throwbacks. Good morning.
Good morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, introducing Dr. April L. Coleman from the Georgia Autism Center. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Doing well,
Nice.
We are coming to the end of National Autism Acceptance Month. We thought it was prudent to have you by to provide some insight. A lot being said, a lot being the spectrum is the word now. Because it used to be something else when we were small, and we can't say that no more. What exactly is autism?
So autism is what we call a neurodevelopmental disorder, and it basically means that it is a diagnosis that is typically diagnosed under the age of 18, but it can be diagnosed in adulthood as well. And so you've got two broad areas, one being social communication and interaction, and you may have some challenges in that area, whether it's how you are able to communicate verbally, non-verbally, how you're able to establish relationships, keep relationships, how you pick up on just the social nuances of just everyday interacting with people. With younger children, it's about how they play, whether they can imitate, whether they can pick up on the nonverbals of others, can they share, can they have that back and forth interaction with their primary caregiver. You also have the other side, the repetitive behaviors, the restricted interest. So it could be where someone can spit off so many facts about a particular topic, or it can be where, with younger children, they get really fixated on certain things, whether it's a TV show, a cartoon character. You also have the anxiety piece that comes with like changes, transitions, stimming behaviors, which is like a self-soothing type thing, like the hand flapping, the spinning, the jumping, those kinds of things.
Oh, wow.
Dr. April L. Coleman is here from the Georgia Autism Center. Your questions and comments at 404-726-WVEE if you have a question for her about autism.
And so now I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, she on the spectrum." Like, so what does that really mean to be on the spectrum? Is that the correct term for it?
So it's a lot of people will say on the spectrum, but the actual term is autism spectrum disorder.
Oh, okay,
a lot
got
of
you.
people will say, my child is on the spectrum, or I know this person that's on the spectrum. Prior to 2013, we had several different diagnoses that were called pervasive developmental disorders, and that was autistic disorder, Asperger's disorder, Rett's disorder. There were about 5 or 6 diagnoses, but at that time it was decided that, okay, it is more of a spectrum because there's no two people with the diagnosis that looks the same.
Right.
Their symptoms, their pattern of behaviors, their characteristics can be completely different. So it is a broader spectrum, and there's a lot more gray than the black and white that we once were told.
Got you.
Absolutely. Dr. April Coleman is here from the Georgia Autism Center. So in the black community, autism hasn't necessarily been properly diagnosed, accepted. It was just the off uncle, that cousin over there. Interestingly enough, Amanda Seals said she self-diagnosed herself. Said there is a test, but she said it's expensive, and that's why she didn't want to do it. She just said, I'm on the spectrum. I have autism. Is that realistic? Like, can you just self-diagnose yourself?
No.
And is it really expensive to be diagnosed?
So it all depends on where you go to get diagnosed. There are several psychologists that do take insurance, so you can get it covered through your insurance pretty easily. I take insurance at my practice, so I've never really had any major challenges with people being able to use their insurance. Of course, if you don't have insurance, depending on where you go, it can be thousands of dollars.
Oh,
wow. But it's one of those things where at the end of the day, getting a formal diagnosis is the only way you're going to really get support in interventions, especially if you're trying to get any type of work accommodations or school accommodations, or want it to actually be acknowledged and taken seriously, it has to be diagnosed by a licensed psychologist, or if they're under 18, a developmental pediatrician, in addition to a child psychologist. But
So I can't just go to the gram
No.
and say, I'm on the spectrum.
No.
No.
You just heard the lady. No, you cannot do that.
Because I want to save money.
No, you cannot do that. So I know a lot of parents are listening, right? And if they have a child, how long do they actually wait to go and get their child diagnosed before they see some of those symptoms?
Well, you can diagnose autism as young as 16 to 18 months old.
Really?
Pediatricians are actually strongly encouraged to do autism screeners at least 3 times before a child is 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's something that's supposed to occur at 9 months, 18 months, and then at 24
Oh, wow.
or 30 months, it's strongly encouraged. So that's something where pediatricians, I feel like, are doing really well with picking up on some of the delays with kids. I would say like 80 to 85% of my referrals come from pediatricians because they're doing those early checks and those developmental checks like they're supposed to.
Love it. Okay.
And referring kids. And I would say they're usually right on target with it.
Oh, wow.
When they're picking up on some of the developmental differences. And so it's that early intervention is really important.
Got
Dr.
it.
April Coleman here from the Georgia Autism Center. Is the end of the National Autism Acceptance Month. Should you have questions about your child, how to diagnose, where to go for diagnosis, questions about anything regarding autism, 404-726-WVEE. Give us a holler right now. We're live on V103. 851 Big Chicken Morning Show on V103, the ATL's #1 for hip-hop, R&B, and throwbacks. Dr. April Coleman from the Georgia Autism Center is here as we close out National Autism Acceptance Month. Taking your questions and queries at 404-726-WVEE. Good morning.
I have my grandson. He's been diagnosed with autism. How do we handle this in the school, Atlanta public school system, when they have him in the class with the regular teachers trying to teach him, and he can't even get his ABCs and 1, 2, 3s right. He's only 7 years old.
My first question is, does he have an IEP or is he in special education services?
Yes, he have an IEP, but the school is not going with him with that. They have him in regular classes, and every day they send a note home. He's not paying attention. He's not doing this. He's disrupting class. I work with him every day with his ABCs. Only farthest we can get is to D on ABC.
So this is what I would really, really encourage you to do. I know we're at the end of the school year, but try to push to get an IEP meeting scheduled before school ends in May. And one of the things that you want to push for is getting him transition to a smaller classroom, or what we call self-contained classroom, because
We
way
tried that, and they just said they don't have one-on-ones and like that, and in the school that he's going to.
So since they're saying that they can't provide him with the support, the next question that you want to ask them is, okay, I need to know which schools in APS system have an autism program that will best meet his needs, since you all are telling me that you don't have those resources, and they do have to provide you with that. If you still continue to have challenges or get pushback, then the next thing you want to do is to reach out to an educational advocate who usually will provide free services and a free consultation to let you know what to do as far as next steps.
Thank you for your call. What are lots of people have, and what I've gathered from lots of people who we talk to off air, who called in with lots of great questions that we probably won't get to in this particular space. There are lots of specificities regarding answers. Every child has their own set of circumstances. But for the average parent who's out there who's worried about it, what are some of the early signs of ASD?
So when it comes to autism, you can actually see signs early in infancy. And so some of the things that you may find are where, kids may not respond to their name. They may not smile in response to you smiling at them. You may notice that they're sensitive to things like light, sounds, touch, may even have a high pain tolerance, not expressing emotions, having trouble with coordination, appearing clumsy, those kinds of things, maybe fixated on certain objects or some type of activity where it's kind of hard to transition them from it. And so that kind of ties into the transitioning from preferred to non-preferred activities. You may have kids who are nonverbal, like they're not picking up and acquiring language and speech like would be expected, beginning at 12 months to 24 months, like the language is just not coming. Or you may have children who are verbal, but may have trouble with like back and forth conversations, being able to maintain on topic, or they just want to transition everything to what they're interested in. You may have kids who they're just very repetitive in what they're doing, whether it's hand flapping, spinning, jumping, climbing, head banging, even things that could be self-harming, including the head banging, biting, those kind of behaviors. Really not wanting to interact with other people, playing alone as a preference, just not really, just may seem in their own world, or maybe more reluctant or have anxiety about how to like interact and join in and need a lot of prompting.
Right. Now, I know you work closely with the parents. So how do the parents feel when they have a child with autism? Do they feel like, is it something that they've done wrong during childbirth, or like how do they actually feel like?
So there's like mixed response. I have mixed responses and interactions. So I have some parents who come in and they're like, Dr. Coleman, I know my child is on the spectrum. I know my child is autistic. I just need it confirmed so that I can start working on getting resources in place. I have other parents who they may not necessarily come in because they have concerns about their child being autistic. The pediatrician or someone else recommended that they come. And so in those conversations, I'll say, based on what we've talked about today, I feel like this may be what is going on, but let's do the comprehensive assessment and then I can let you know. In those type of situations, I have parents who may be a lot more emotionally reactive, upset, feeling like maybe they did something, guilt, blaming themselves, especially if their child is older. But then you have parents who they're just relieved that they now have answers and are appreciative of knowing, like, okay.
Because they've probably been feeling something, they just really didn't know what it was, and then they come to your practice and it's like, oh, okay. Yes. I wasn't going crazy.
Thank you for validating me.
Right.
Dr. April, we could continue this conversation for hours and hours and hours. I have one last question I have to ask.
Yes.
Is there any truth to the link between vaccinations and autism? Because there's so much conversation about it. And I know it might not be a simple answer, but I need the simplest answer possible.
Yeah, so it comes up a lot. I will tell you, in my practice, I have seen children vaccinated and unvaccinated with the diagnosis.
Okay.
And there's not any reliable studies that are really showing the link. What we are seeing is more of genetics. So we are really being pushed to encourage parents to get genetic testing done.
Gotcha.
To figure out what's going on.
Okay.
Tell them where they can find you and get more information and a diagnosis if necessary.
And book an appointment.
Yes. You can find me at the Georgia Autism Center. We are located here in Metro Atlanta. You can book an appointment online at georgiaautismcenter.com. You find my name in the drop-down box. Put all your child's information, and one of our front office staff will give you a call to set up a new patient appointment.
Nice.
Thank you very much. Dr. April L. Coleman, Georgia Autism Center, thank you for coming this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
More Big Ticket Morning Show right after this on V103.